The millionaire elderly couple's daughter sold their mansion until the maid found the secret will. The signature was still drying on the contract when Camilla dropped the crystal vase, watching it shatter across the marble floor in slow motion, because through the doorway she could see Vanessa Castellardo sliding $15 million worth of betrayal across the mahogany desk to a developer who was already smiling about the demolition permit in his briefcase. "Careful, Camilla," Vanessa said without looking up, her diamond bracelet catching the afternoon light as she initialed another page. "That vase was worth more than your annual salary. Though I suppose it doesn't matter now. You'll be gone in 2 weeks anyway." The words hit harder than the broken crystal cutting into Camilla's palm as she knelt to gather the pieces. 15 years. 15 years of serving Harold and Lila Beaumont, of learning their stories, holding Lila's hand through chemotherapy, helping Harold down the stairs when his knees gave out. And now their daughter was erasing everything they'd built as casually as crossing an item off a shopping list. "Miss Castellano," the developer said, extending his hand across the desk, "pleasure doing business with you. My team will begin surveying the property tomorrow. We're looking at a 16-unit luxury condominium complex, very high-end. Your parents' mansion will make quite the promotional story. Built on the grounds of the historic Castellano estate. People love that heritage angle." Camilla's hands trembled as she picked up the crystal shards. Heritage angle? As if Harold and Lila's 70 years of love, 40 years of marriage, their journey from Spanish immigrants to philanthropic millionaires, could be reduced to a marketing gimmick for overpriced apartments? "My parents are barely cold in their graves," a voice said from the doorway, sharp with disgust. Marcus Castellano stood there, still wearing his hospital scrubs from his shift at the emergency room, his face haggard from grief and exhaustion. 3 weeks, Vanessa. Mom died 3 weeks ago. Dad followed her 10 days later because he couldn't bear to live without her. And you're already selling their home? Vanessa didn't flinch. She gathered the signed documents into a leather portfolio with practiced efficiency, her perfectly manicured nails, blood red, Camilla noticed with a shiver, tapping against the folder. "I'm the executor of their estate, Marcus." The will was clear. "As the eldest child, I inherit the property and have full authority over its disposal. You received your trust fund years ago. This is simply business." "Business?" Marcus's laugh was bitter enough to curdle milk. "Is that what you call destroying every memory our parents spent their lives creating? The library where Dad taught us to read Spanish. The garden where Mom grew the roses she brought from Barcelona. The ballroom where they renewed their vows on their 40th anniversary?" His voice cracked. "The bedroom where they both died, holding hands because Dad's heart literally broke from losing her." The developer cleared his throat uncomfortably. "I'll be in touch about the closing, Miss Castellano. 2 weeks, as we discussed." He practically fled from the room. Vanessa waited until the front door closed before turning to her brother. "Sentimentality doesn't pay the bills, Marcus. The mansion needs extensive repairs. The foundation alone would cost $2 million to stabilize. The plumbing is original from 1924. The electrical system is a fire hazard. The roof needs complete replacement. We're talking 5, maybe 6 million in renovations just to make it livable by modern standards." "So we renovate it," Marcus insisted. "We honor what Mom and Dad wanted." "What they wanted?" Vanessa's voice rose for the first time, revealing the anger beneath her cool exterior. "They wanted us to sacrifice everything for their nostalgic fantasy? I have a life, Marcus. I have a career in New York, a penthouse with a mortgage, a lifestyle that requires capital. I'm 42 years old, and I've worked my entire adult life in finance. I understand money in a way our parents never did." "They understood something more important than money," Marcus said quietly. "They understood legacy." Camilla remained on her knees, forgotten in the corner, her hands now bleeding from the crystal cuts she hadn't noticed. She wanted to scream at Vanessa, to tell her about the hours Lila spent planning the foundation she wanted to create, the community center Harold dreamed of establishing, the scholarships they wanted to fund for immigrant children like they'd once been. But Camila was just the maid. Her voice didn't matter in this world of wills and inheritances and legal authority. Legacy doesn't exist, Vanessa said, grabbing her purse. Her mez probably cost more than Camila's car. There are only stories people tell themselves to feel important. In 50 years, no one will remember Harold and Lila Castellano. But $15 million? That's real. That's tangible. That's smart. She walked to the door, paused, and looked back at Marcus with something that might have been pity. You always were the idealistic one. It's probably why you became a doctor instead of doing something lucrative. You're still trying to save everyone, just like Dad. She shook her head. Grow up, little brother. Our parents are gone. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. The door closed behind her with a finality that echoed through the mansion's empty halls. Marcus stood frozen for a long moment, then slowly sank into one of the leather chairs, his face in his hands. Camila finally stood, cradling her bleeding palm, unsure whether to comfort him or leave him to his grief. "I'm sorry, Dr. Marcus," she whispered finally. "I'm so sorry." He looked up at her, and she was shocked to see tears streaming down his face. This man who saved lives in the emergency room, who'd held trauma victims together with his bare hands, who'd pronounced his own father dead after finding him collapsed beside his mother's hospital bed, this man was crying like a child. "You knew them better than we did at the end, didn't you?" he asked, his voice raw. "You were here when Vanessa and I were building our careers, too busy to visit more than twice a year. You heard their stories. You knew their wishes." Camila nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Then tell me," Marcus said urgently, leaning forward. "Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me they wouldn't have wanted this, the demolition, the condos, the erasure of everything they built." "They didn't want it," Camila confirmed, her voice stronger now. "Mrs. Leela, in her last days, she talked about the foundation constantly. She had plans, detailed plans. She wanted to turn the mansion into an art center for the community, a place where immigrant families could access resources, where children could take music lessons and art classes for free. She'd been meeting with architects, with lawyers, with—" She stopped, something clicking in her mind. "Lawyers, plural. What is it?" Marcus asked, noticing her expression change. "Mrs. Leela," Camila said slowly. "She met with a different lawyer than the one who read the will, about 6 months before her diagnosis. She made me drive her to an office downtown. She didn't want Mr. Harold to know because she said it was a surprise for their anniversary. But then she got sick, and—" Camila's eyes widened. "She never mentioned it again. I forgot all about it." Marcus stood abruptly. "What lawyer? Do you remember the name?" Camila closed her eyes, thinking back. "Bernard." Bernard something. She had me wait in the car, but I saw the sign. Bernard and Associates. It was on Maple Street, near the courthouse. "Bernard Rothstein?" Marcus's face transformed with hope. "The estate planning attorney? He's been practicing for 40 years. Dad mentioned him once, said he was the best in the state for complex trusts." "That sounds right," Camila said, her heart beginning to race. "You think—" "I think," Marcus interrupted, already pulling out his phone, "that my mother was too smart and too determined to leave her life's work to chance. If she met with Rothstein 6 months before getting sick, when she and Dad were both healthy and clear-minded," he looked at Camila with fierce intensity, "she planned for this. She planned for Vanessa." "But the will was so clear," Camila protested. "The lawyer who read it, Mr. Peterson, he said everything went to Miss Vanessa as the eldest child." "Peterson is Vanessa's lawyer," Marcus said, his fingers flying over his phone screen. She hired him 5 years ago to handle her own estate planning. The fact that he read Mom and Dad's will instead of their longtime attorney should have raised red flags immediately. He found what he was looking for and hit dial. "This is Dr. Marcus Castellano. I need an emergency appointment with Mr. Rothstein. Yes, I understand he's busy. This is regarding my parents, Harold and Leila Castellano. They passed recently and—" He paused, listening. "He'll see me? Now? Yes, I can be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at Camilla with renewed determination. "He remembers them. He said he's been waiting for one of us to call." Marcus grabbed his jacket. "Come with me. You might remember details I don't know." "But I'm—" Camilla gestured at her uniform, her bleeding hand, her position as mere household staff. "You're the person who spent the most time with my parents in their final years," Marcus said firmly. "You're exactly who needs to be there." "Besides," he added, with the first smile she'd seen from him in weeks, "you might be the key to everything. Mom trusted you. She made you drive her to that appointment for a reason." Camilla looked down at the broken crystal scattered across the floor, remnants of beauty shattered by carelessness, much like what was happening to the Castellano legacy. Then she looked at Marcus, at the hope burning in his eyes despite the grief, and made a decision. "Let me get my purse," she said, "and bandage this hand. Then let's go find out what your mother was really planning." As they left the mansion, Camilla cast one last look at the grand foyer with its sweeping staircase and crystal chandelier, at the oil painting of Harold and Leila in their prime, smiling at each other with the kind of love that transcends time. The house felt different now. Not empty, but expectant, as if it were holding its breath, waiting to see if anyone would fight for it. She touched her pocket where she'd tucked the small note she'd found weeks ago while cleaning out Lila's bedside table. She hadn't known what to make of it at the time, hadn't understood the cryptic message scrawled in Lila's elegant handwriting. "The heart of the house holds the heart of our wishes. Tell Camilla to look where only servants see." Now, driving toward Bernard Rothstein's office with Marcus gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white, Camilla wondered if that note was about to make sense, and if maybe, just maybe, Harold and Leila Castellano had been 3 steps ahead of everyone all along. The afternoon sun glinted off the mansion's windows as they drove away, and for a moment, Camilla could swear she saw 2 figures standing in the upper window, an elderly couple, hand in hand, watching and waiting. Part 2. Labyrinth of Secrets. Bernard Rothstein's office was everything Vanessa's sleek corporate lawyer's space was not. Books lined floor-to-ceiling shelves, the leather worn from decades of consultation. Antique furniture mixed with modern necessities. Photographs covered one wall. Bernard with clients spanning 50 years, testimonials to a career built on trust and discretion. The man himself was in his mid-70s, with silver hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the bearing of someone who'd seen every form of family drama imaginable and still believed in human decency. "Dr. Castellano," he said, shaking Marcus's hand warmly before turning to Camilla. "And you must be Camila Rodriguez. Leila spoke of you often. Please, sit." Camila exchanged a startled glance with Marcus. "Mrs. Leila talked about me?" "Extensively." Bernard settled into his chair, folding his hands on the desk. "She said you were the daughter she wished she'd had. Loyal, compassionate, understanding the value of heritage." He paused, his expression sad. "She was deeply worried about Vanessa." Marcus leaned forward. "Mr. Rothstein, we need to know, did my parents have another will? Something different from what Vanessa's lawyer presented?" Bernard studied them for a long moment, as if weighing how much to reveal. Then he stood and walked to his antique safe, spinning the combination lock with practiced ease. From inside, he withdrew a sealed envelope, thick with documents. "Your parents hired me 6 months before Leila's diagnosis," he began, returning to his desk but not yet opening the envelope. "They came to me with an unusual request. They wanted to create what I call a moral will, a document that would test their heirs before revealing the true distribution of their estate." "A test?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "Harold and Leela had built something extraordinary," Bernard continued. "Not just wealth, but meaning. They'd started with nothing. Immigrants who worked 3 jobs each, who saved every penny, who invested wisely and built a fortune through decades of sacrifice. But more than money, they'd built a life philosophy that wealth is meaningless unless it serves a greater purpose." Camila found herself nodding. She'd heard Leela say almost those exact words countless times. "They saw what was happening with their children," Bernard said, his tone gentle but honest. "Vanessa, brilliant in finance, but increasingly focused on personal wealth accumulation. Marcus, noble in his medical career, but disconnected from the family foundation they wanted to create. They worried that if they simply left everything to their children, their life's work would be squandered. So they created a test," Marcus said, understanding dawning. "The will Peterson read was real but incomplete," Bernard confirmed. "It was designed to reveal character. They knew Vanessa, as executor and eldest child, would receive apparent control of the estate. They wanted to see what she would do with that power. Would she honor their wishes? Would she consult with you, Marcus? Would she consider the broader impact of her decisions? She's selling the mansion to a developer who's going to demolish it and build luxury condos," Marcus said bitterly. "She signed the contract today." Bernard's expression didn't change, but Camila saw something flicker in his eyes. Disappointment mixed with vindication. "Then she has failed the test. And according to the terms of your parents' true will, she has forfeited her inheritance." The words hum in the air like thunder. "What?" Marcus gasped. Bernard finally opened the envelope, sliding the documents across the desk. "This is the real will, properly executed, notarized, and legally binding. It supersedes the document Peterson read. Your parents filed it with me under seal, with explicit instructions not to reveal its existence unless certain conditions were met." Marcus grabbed the documents with shaking hands. Camila leaned in to read alongside him. The will was detailed, typed in legal language, but with annotations in Harold's distinctive handwriting. As they read, the full scope of Harold and Lila's plan became clear. "Oh my God," Marcus breathed. They knew exactly what Vanessa would do." The document outlined a complete alternative distribution of the estate. To Vanessa and Marcus Castellano, $1 million each, held in trust and distributed quarterly over 10 years, contingent upon demonstrated charitable work and family unity. Any attempt to sell the family mansion or contest this will would result in complete forfeiture of inheritance, with funds redirected to charitable organizations. To household staff, Camila Rodriguez would receive a pension of $75,000 annually for life, plus a lump sum of $500,000 in recognition of 15 years of service. Antonio Gutierrez, groundskeeper, would receive $50,000 annually for life. All other staff would receive 1 year's salary for each year of service. The Castellano mansion and estate, to be immediately converted into the Castellano Foundation for Arts and Community, a nonprofit organization providing free educational programs, cultural events, and social services to immigrant families and underserved communities. Operating budget of $20 million to be established from the estate. Foundation leadership. Camila Rodriguez to serve as executive director with an annual salary of $150,000 plus benefits. Antonio Gutierrez to serve as facilities director. A board of directors to be established, including Marcus Castellano and 3 community representatives. Remaining estate. After all bequests and foundation funding, remaining assets estimated at $15 million to be divided equally between Marcus and various charities supporting immigrant rights, arts education, and medical research. Camila couldn't breathe. Executive director? $150,000 salary? It was impossible. She was a maid. She'd barely finished high school before having to work to support her family. She had no college degree, no business experience, no— "They believed in you," Bernard said quietly, watching her face. "Lila told me that you understood their vision better than anyone. You'd lived it. You'd watched them build bridges between their wealthy world and the communities they came from. You hadn't forgotten where you came from, and that made you the perfect person to run their foundation." "But I'm not qualified," Camila protested, her voice shaking. "I don't know how to run an organization, how to manage budgets, how to—" "Which is why the will includes funding for training and support," Bernard interrupted gently. "They arranged for you to work with foundation management consultants for your first 2 years. You'll have mentors, advisors, a full support system." He smiled. "Lila said you were the smartest person she knew because you understood what mattered. Everything else could be learned." Marcus was still reading, his eyes wide. The clause about Vanessa: if she attempts to sell the property, she forfeits everything. "Everything," Bernard confirmed. "And she signed a contract to sell today, you said?" "To Riverside Development Corporation, $15 million. Closing in 2 weeks." Bernard made a note. "Then the forfeiture clause is triggered. The contract is void. She had no legal authority to sell property she doesn't own. Riverside can sue her for breach of contract, but that's her problem now." "She'll be ruined," Marcus said. And despite everything, Camila heard pain in his voice. She leveraged her assets to make this deal. If she can't fulfill it— "She made her choice," Bernard said, not unkindly. "Your parents gave her every opportunity to honor their legacy. They prayed she would, but they were also pragmatic enough to know she might not." Camilla's mind was reeling. This changed everything. The mansion could be saved. The foundation could be built. Harold and Lila's dream could live on, but the cost was Vanessa's complete financial ruin and the shattering of whatever remained of the Castellano family. "When do we file this will with the probate court?" Marcus asked, his doctor's practicality taking over. "I can file it immediately," Bernard said. "Given that a fraudulent sale contract has been signed, we need to move quickly. I'll request an emergency hearing to invalidate the sale and establish the true will as operative." He looked between Marcus and Camila. "But I need to be clear. This will destroy Vanessa. Financially, professionally, possibly personally. Are you both prepared for that?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "My parents didn't want to destroy her. They wanted to save her, to show her what really matters before it was too late." "Sometimes people have to lose everything to find what matters," Bernard said quietly. "I've been practicing law for 47 years. I've seen it happen. Not often, but sometimes." Camila thought about Vanessa's cold dismissal of the staff, her reduction of Harold and Lila's life to a marketing angle, her willingness to erase her parents' legacy for $15 million. Then she thought about Harold teaching her to read legal documents so she could help her daughter with homework, about Lila sharing stories of immigrating to America with nothing but hope and determination, about the foundation they dreamed of creating, the lives it could change. "File it," Camila said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. "Mrs. Lila trusted me to protect their dream. I won't let her down." Bernard nodded approvingly. "I'll need you both to sign affidavits confirming your parents' mental competency when this will was executed and testifying to the circumstances of the attempted sale. Can you come back tomorrow morning at 9? "We'll be here," Marcus confirmed. As they stood to leave, Camila remembered the note she'd found. She pulled it from her pocket. "Mr. Rothstein, Mrs. Lila left me this. I didn't understand it at the time, but now. She handed it to him. Bernard read it aloud. "The heart of the house holds the heart of our wishes. Tell Camilla to look where only servants see." He smiled. "Ah, yes. There's one more thing you need to know." He reached into the envelope and withdrew a small brass key attached to a card with an address written in Lila's handwriting. "This is the key to a storage unit downtown," Bernard explained. "Inside, you'll find all of Lila's plans for the foundation: architectural drawings, program proposals, community partnership agreements, everything. She spent 2 years preparing for this, documenting every detail. She said she was leaving it for you, Camilla, because you would know what to do with it." Camilla took the key with trembling hands, feeling its weight, not just the brass, but the responsibility it represented. "She also left you a letter," Bernard added, pulling out one final envelope. "She wrote it 3 days before she died. I was instructed to give it to you when the time was right. I believe that time is now." The envelope was cream-colored, expensive stationery, with "For Camila, mi hija del corazón" written on the front in Lila's elegant script, "My daughter of the heart." Camila's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't open it here, not in front of witnesses. This was private, sacred. "Thank you," she whispered to Bernard, "for keeping their secret, for believing in their dream." "It's been my honor," Bernard said. "I'll call you both after I file the will tomorrow. Things are going to move quickly after that. The media will likely get wind of the story. Billionaire couple creates elaborate test for heirs, daughter fails spectacularly. Be prepared for attention." As they left the office and stepped into the late afternoon sunshine, Marcus turned to Camilla. "Are you okay? This is a lot to process." "I don't know," Camilla admitted. "A few hours ago, I was a maid about to lose her job.
Now I'm supposedly the executive director of a foundation I don't know how to run, with a salary that's more than I've made in my entire life combined, holding the keys to dead woman's dreams." Marcus laughed, but it was warm, not bitter. "Welcome to the Castellano family drama. We don't do anything halfway." He sobered. "Thank you, Camilla, for being willing to fight for this. You could have just taken your severance and walked away. Instead, you're stepping into a battle that's going to get very ugly very quickly." "Mrs. Lila believed in me," Camilla said simply. "No one ever believed in me before. My parents thought I was wasting my life in service. My ex-husband said I'd never amount to anything more than a maid. But Mrs. Lila saw something else. She saw someone worth trusting with her life's work." She looked at Marcus directly. "I won't betray that trust. Whatever comes next, media attention, Vanessa's anger, learning a job I'm not qualified for, I'll face it. For her, for Mr. Harold, for everyone they wanted to help." Marcus impulsively hugged her, and Camilla was surprised to find herself hugging back. Two people united by grief and determination. "We should tell Vanessa," Marcus said as they separated, "before she hears it from lawyers tomorrow. She deserves that much." Camilla thought about Vanessa's cruel dismissal, her contempt for the staff, her cold reduction of love to business transactions. Part of her wanted Vanessa to be blindsided, to feel even a fraction of the shock and betrayal she'd inflicted on others. But another part, the part that had spent 15 years watching Harold treat everyone with dignity, knew Marcus was right. "Yes," Camilla agreed. "Let's go back to the mansion. Together." The drive back was quiet, both of them lost in thought. Camilla clutched Lila's letter, still unopened, feeling like it was burning a hole through her purse. Whatever it said, it could wait until she was alone. This moment belonged to preparing for the storm about to break over the Castellano family. When they pulled into the mansion's circular driveway, they saw Vanessa's Mercedes already parked there. Through the library windows, they could see her sorting through papers, probably cataloging valuables for sale. "Ready?" Marcus asked. Camilla thought about all the times she'd bitten her tongue, accepted condescension, swallowed her opinions because servants weren't supposed to have voices.
She thought about Harold telling her that dignity wasn't granted by others, it was claimed by yourself. She thought about Lila saying that the meek might inherit the earth, but the brave changed it. "Ready," she said. They walked into the mansion together, two unlikely allies about to shatter a greedy woman's world and, perhaps, save a dead couple's dream in the process. Vanessa looked up as they entered the library, her expression shifting from annoyance to suspicion when she saw them together. "What's this?" she asked, her tone sharp. "The help and the disappointed brother forming an alliance?" "We need to talk," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the tension radiating through his body. "About Mom and Dad's real will." Vanessa's face went very still. "What are you talking about?" "We're talking about the fact that you just signed a contract to sell property you don't own," Camila said, finding her voice stronger than she'd expected. "We're talking about the fact that your parents knew exactly what you'd do, and they planned for it." "We're talking," Marcus finished quietly, "about the fact that you just forfeited your entire inheritance, and tomorrow the whole world is going to know it." The color drained from Vanessa's face. The papers she'd been holding slipped from her fingers, scattering across Harold's antique desk like fallen leaves. Outside, the sun was setting. Over the gardens Lila had loved, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Inside the mansion, the battle for Harold and Lila Castellano's legacy was just beginning, and Camila, clutching a letter from a dead woman who'd believed in her, stood ready to fight. Part 3. Revelation and Crisis. "You're lying." Vanessa's voice was ice, but her hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the desk. "There is no other will." Peterson read the official document filed with the county. Everything was witnessed, notarized, legal. "Everything was real," Marcus agreed, pulling out his phone and displaying the photos he'd taken of Bernard's documents. "But incomplete. Mom and Dad filed a second will, a more recent will, with Bernard Rothstein 6 months before Mom got sick. It supersedes everything Peterson read." Vanessa snatched the phone from his hand, her eyes scanning frantically. With each line she read, her face transformed. Shock giving way to disbelief, then to fury, then to something that looked almost like fear. "This is a forgery," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Some scheme you've cooked up with the help to steal my inheritance." "My name is Camila Rodriguez," Camila interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut through Vanessa's panic. "Not the help. And your parents created this will because they knew you'd do exactly what you did today, sell their life's work to the highest bidder without a second thought." Vanessa scrolled through more photos, reading the detailed provisions. When she reached the forfeiture clause, she went pale. "Any attempt to sell the property results in complete forfeiture of inheritance," she read aloud, her voice barely a whisper. "This can't be legal. They can't punish me for acting as executor." "They can when you try to sell property you don't actually own," Marcus said. "The mansion and grounds were never yours, Vanessa. Mom and Dad left them to the foundation they wanted created. You were supposed to be the executor who helped establish that foundation. Instead, you tried to destroy it for profit." Vanessa looked up at her brother, and for the first time, Camila saw something crack in her perfect facade. "I signed a contract today, $15 million. Riverside Development advanced me $3 million as a good faith deposit. I already transferred $2 million to my investment accounts." Her voice was rising, panic creeping in. "If I can't deliver the property, they'll sue me for breach of contract. I'll have to return the deposit plus damages. We're talking 5, maybe 6 million in penalties." "Yes," Marcus said quietly, "you will." "I don't have that kind of liquidity." Vanessa's composure was completely shattered now. "My assets are tied up in long-term investments, in the penthouse mortgage, in—" She stopped, realization dawning. "I'll be ruined, bankrupt. Everything I've built."
Everything you built on the foundation of our parents' sacrifice, Marcus corrected. The trust fund that paid for your Ivy League education? The connections Dad made that got you your first Wall Street job? The safety net that lets you take risks other people couldn't afford? All of it came from them. And the moment they died, you couldn't wait to cash in their legacy. Vanessa sank into Harold's chair, the chair where he'd sat every evening, reading correspondence and smoking his pipe, planning charitable donations and community initiatives. She looked small, suddenly, diminished, a woman realizing she'd miscalculated catastrophically. "They set a trap for me," she whispered. "Their own daughter." "They gave you a choice," Camilla corrected, moving closer. "They hoped you'd choose love over greed, legacy over profit, family over self-interest. They prayed you'd honor their wishes." She placed her bandaged hand on the desk, the crystal cuts a visible reminder of the moment everything changed. "They were testing whether you'd inherited their values or just their money. And I failed." Vanessa's laugh was hollow. "I failed spectacularly, didn't I?" "You still have 24 hours before Bernard files the real will with probate court," Marcus said. "Technically, you could void the sale contract with Riverside, pay the penalty for backing out, probably $500,000, maybe less. You'd still lose most of your liquid assets, but you wouldn't be completely destroyed." Vanessa looked up sharply. "And if I do that, if I cancel the sale and pretend none of this happened?" "The will still stands," Marcus said firmly. "The mansion still becomes a foundation. You still don't inherit the property. But you'd keep your $1 million trust fund, distributed over 10 years. You'd avoid bankruptcy and the public humiliation of a breach of contract lawsuit." $1 million over 10 years, Vanessa's voice was bitter. $100,000 a year. Do you know what my annual expenses are? The penthouse maintenance alone is $80,000. My lifestyle requires. "Then change your lifestyle," Camilla said bluntly. "Millions of people survive on a fraction of that. Your mother came to this country with $200 and a suitcase. She worked as a seamstress, a cleaning woman, a waitress, whatever it took. She built a life through sacrifice and determination. Maybe it's time you learned what that means." Vanessa's eyes flashed with anger. "You don't get to lecture me about sacrifice. You're about to become the executive director of a foundation you're completely unqualified to run, with a salary 3 times what you were making as a maid. Don't pretend this is about principle when you're benefiting enormously from my parents' bizarre social experiment." The words stung because they contained a grain of truth. Camilla was benefiting, extraordinarily, but there was a crucial difference. "Your parents chose me because they believed I understood their vision," Camilla said quietly. "Not because I'm qualified by traditional standards, but because I lived their values every day." "I watched how they treated people, with respect, dignity, and genuine care regardless of wealth or status. I saw how they never forgot where they came from, how they gave back to communities that looked like the ones they'd left behind in Barcelona." She met Vanessa's gaze steadily. "They didn't choose me to punish you. They chose me because they knew I'd fight to protect what mattered to them, and they were right." Silence fell over the library. Outside, darkness had fully settled, and the mansion's windows reflected the 3 of them like portraits in a gallery. The disgraced daughter, the disappointed son, and the maid who'd inherited a dream. Finally, Vanessa spoke, her voice tired. "What happens now?" "Now, you make a choice," Marcus said. "Cancel the Riverside contract tonight, take the penalty, and keep your trust fund. Or let it play out. File bankruptcy, face the lawsuit, watch the media turn this into a cautionary tale about greed and inheritance." "Some choice," Vanessa muttered. "It's more than you gave anyone else," Camilla pointed out. "You dismissed the staff with 2 months severance. You sold your parents' legacy without consulting your brother. You reduced 40 years of love and sacrifice to a real estate transaction.
Your parents are still giving you more consideration than you showed anyone." Vanessa stood abruptly, pacing to the window. The gardens were dark now, but the solar lights Harold had installed illuminated the rose bushes. Leela's pride and joy, cultivated over decades. Each variety chosen to honor a memory or mark a milestone. "I have to call my lawyer," Vanessa said finally. "Review the documents, confirm they're legitimate, strategize next steps." She turned to face them. "But if this is real, if Mom and Dad really did this, then they succeeded in teaching me a lesson. I've lost everything that mattered to me. My career reputation, my financial security, my sense of who I am. I hope they're satisfied." "They're not satisfied," Marcus said gently.
They're disappointed. There's a difference. Satisfaction would mean they got what they wanted. Disappointment means they hoped for better and didn't get it. Vanessa grabbed her purse and portfolio, moving toward the door with the brittle dignity of someone trying not to shatter. At the threshold, she paused. "For what it's worth," she said without turning around, "I did love them. I just didn't know how to show it in ways they'd recognize. I thought providing financial security, making smart business decisions, being practical, I thought that was love. That was my language." "They knew you loved them," Camila said softly. "Mrs. Lila told me once that you called every Sunday, even when you were traveling for work. That you remembered every birthday and anniversary. That you sent flowers on holidays. She knew you loved them, Miss Vanessa. She just wished you understood what they valued more than flowers and phone calls." "What was that?" Vanessa asked, her voice breaking slightly. "Time," Camila answered simply. "Presence. Seeing them not as obligations but as people with stories worth hearing, wisdom worth receiving. Being there not just for birthdays but for Tuesday afternoons when nothing special was happening, except life itself." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked out, her heels clicking against the marble floor, the sound fading as she left the mansion, perhaps for the last time as someone with authority over it. After the front door closed, Marcus sank onto the leather sofa, exhaustion written across his face. "I feel like I just performed emergency surgery on my own family." Camila sat beside him, suddenly aware of how tired she was. "Do you think she'll cancel the contract?" "I honestly don't know," Marcus admitted. "Vanessa's always been proud. Admitting defeat, backing out of a deal, paying penalties, it goes against everything she's built her identity on. But financial ruin and public humiliation might be worse." He looked at Camila. "What do you think?" "I think," Camila said slowly, "that your parents just forced her to confront who she really is. And that's terrifying for anyone, but especially for someone who spent years building a persona of control and success." She pulled Lila's unopened letter from her purse, holding it like a talisman. "I think we won't know until tomorrow what choice she makes. Are you going to open that?" Marcus asked, gesturing to the envelope. "Not yet," Camilla said. "I need to be alone when I do. Whatever Mrs. Lila wrote, it's going to break me, I think, and I need to be somewhere private when that happens." Marcus nodded, understanding. "I should get home. My shift at the hospital starts at 6 tomorrow morning, and after Bernard files the will, everything's going to explode. I need to sleep while I still can." He stood, then hesitated. "Camilla, thank you for being willing to take this on. I know it's overwhelming, but Mom was right about you. You do understand what matters." After Marcus left, Camilla walked through the mansion slowly, turning on lights, feeling the house settle around her. In a few weeks, if everything went according to Harold and Lila's plan, this wouldn't be a private residence anymore. It would be a foundation, a community space, a living memorial to two people who'd believed wealth was only meaningful when shared. The responsibility was staggering. She'd have to learn nonprofit management, fundraising, program development, board governance, subjects she'd never even considered studying.
She'd have to hire staff, develop curricula, build partnerships with schools and community organizations. She'd have to be the face of the foundation, giving speeches and interviews and presentations. She, Camila Rodriguez, who'd spent 15 years keeping her head down and her opinions to herself, who'd been invisible by design, by necessity, by habit. The thought terrified her. But then she remembered Lila's words from a conversation they'd had just months before the diagnosis. They'd been in the garden, Lila pruning roses while Camilla weeded the beds. "You know what I've learned in 70 years, mi querida?" Lila had said, her pruning shears snipping with practiced precision. "That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs to be done despite the fear. Harold and I were terrified when we came to America. We didn't speak English well, didn't understand the culture, had no connections or safety net. But we came anyway, because staying in Spain meant accepting limits on what our lives could be." "You were brave," Camilla had said. "We were desperate," Lila corrected with a laugh. "Bravery is just desperation with better PR. But here's what I really learned. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be more afraid of living a small life than of taking big risks." Camilla found herself in the conservatory, Lila's favorite room, with its glass walls and ceiling, its baby grand piano, its lush plants thriving in the humidity. She sat at the piano bench, not playing, she didn't know how, just sitting where Lila had sat countless times, filling the house with Chopin and Beethoven and Spanish folk songs. Finally, with the mansion quiet around her and moonlight streaming through the glass ceiling, Camilla opened the letter. "Wait, before their fate changes forever." If this story of love and danger has already captivated you, comment which character intrigues you the most. To make sure you don't miss any unexpected twists, subscribe and join our storytelling community. The most intense chapter is about to begin. Now, back to the plot. My dearest Camilla, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and you have found the will. I'm so sorry for the burden I'm placing on your shoulders, but I trust you in ways I cannot fully explain, even to myself. When I was young, your age perhaps, I cleaned houses in Barcelona to save money for passage to America. People treated me as invisible. They spoke freely in front of me as if I couldn't understand Spanish, as if I had no thoughts or feelings worth considering. I was furniture to them, useful but not quite human. I swore that if I ever had means, I would never treat another person that way. When Harold and I built our fortune, we made a pact. Never forget where we came from, never let wealth make us blind to others' humanity, never hoard what could be shared. We succeeded in business, but failed, I think, as parents. We gave Vanessa and Marcus everything, education, opportunity, security, but somehow forgot to give them the thing that mattered most, the understanding that wealth is a responsibility, not just a privilege. Vanessa is brilliant, Camilla, truly brilliant, but she has learned to value the wrong things. She measures worth in dollars and success in acquisitions. She has built a fortress of wealth around herself and mistaken it for achievement. Marcus is kind, but disconnected. He saves strangers every day in his emergency room, but forgot to save relationships with the people who loved him. He let his career become his identity and lost track of family in the process. I tell you this not to excuse them, but to explain why I'm trusting you with this foundation instead of my own children. You understand something they don't, that a life's meaning is measured not in what you accumulate, but in what you give away. The foundation is my heart's work, Camilla. For 2 years, I planned every detail, the programs we'll offer, the communities we'll serve, the lives we'll touch. All of it is in the storage unit. Bernard will give you the key. Everything is there. Architectural plans for converting the mansion, program proposals, budget projections, partnership agreements with schools and community organizations, staffing recommendations. You'll think you're not qualified to lead this. You'll feel like an imposter. But qualification isn't about degrees or experience. It's about alignment between your values and the work's purpose. You understand our vision because you lived it. You know what it's like to be dismissed and overlooked. You know what it means to work hard for everything you have. You know the struggles of immigrant families because you are one. That makes you perfectly qualified. I'm asking you to do something extraordinary, to step into a role society says you're not meant for, to lead when you've been trained to follow, to speak up when you've been taught to stay silent, to believe in yourself when the world has taught you to doubt. It will be hard, mi hija del corazón. People will question your credentials. They'll assume you're a token appointment, a wealthy woman's sentimental gesture. They'll expect you to fail. Prove them wrong. Show them that leadership comes from character, not pedigree. That wisdom is earned through experience, not purchased with tuition. That the best person to run a foundation serving immigrants and working families is someone who knows those struggles intimately. I believe in you with every fiber of my being. Harold did too. This was our shared vision, our joint hope. We watched you for 15 years, Camila. We saw how you treated everyone with kindness, how you volunteered at Sophia's school even after working 10-hour days, how you sent money to your mother in El Salvador every month without fail, how you never complained, never gossiped, never compromised your integrity even when it would have been easier. We saw you living the values we preached, and we knew if anyone could carry our dream forward, it was you. The key Bernard gives you opens more than a storage unit. It opens the future, not just yours, but for hundreds of families who will benefit from the foundation. Use it wisely. Build something beautiful. Create the community space Harold and I dreamed of, but didn't live to see. And one more thing, my dear, don't forget to live your own life too. This foundation is important, but so is your happiness. Sophia needs a mother who's present, not just busy. You need joy and rest and love, not just responsibility. Find balance. Don't sacrifice yourself on the altar of our dream. Make it your dream too, something that enriches your life rather than consuming it. I don't know if there's anything after this life. If there is, Harold and I will be watching, cheering you on, celebrating every success. If there isn't, then let this letter be my final gift, my absolute faith in your ability to do extraordinary things. You are enough, Camila. You have always been enough. Now go show the world. Con todo mi amor, Lila. P.S. Don't let Vanessa's reaction break your heart. She's lost right now, but perhaps this crisis will help her find herself again. Sometimes we need to lose everything to remember what matters. Be patient with her if you can. She's still my daughter, and I still hope she'll find her way. Camila didn't realize she was crying until tears fell onto the paper, smudging Lila's elegant handwriting. She clutched the letter to her chest, feeling the weight of Lila's faith in her, the enormity of the trust being placed in her hands. You are enough. No one had ever told her that before. Her parents had loved her, but viewed her work as servitude, something to escape rather than embrace. Her ex-husband had belittled her ambitions, when she'd had any. Society had trained her to apologize for taking up space, for having opinions, for wanting more. But Lila had seen her, really seen her, had recognized not just who Camila was, but who she could become. She read the letter 3 more times, memorizing phrases, letting Lila's words sink into her bones. Then she carefully folded it and placed it back in her purse. Tomorrow, she'd frame it. Hang it in her office, because apparently she was going to have an office now, in this mansion, running this foundation. The thought still terrified her, but terror mixed with something else now, something that felt like excitement, purpose, possibility.
Her phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "Mom, where are you? It's late and you're not home. Everything okay?" Camila smiled through her tears. Her daughter, 17 years old and already accepted to university. Smart, ambitious, everything Camila had hoped she'd be. And now, maybe, Camila could give her even more, not just college tuition, but an example. A mother who'd stepped into her power, who'd claimed a place she supposedly wasn't qualified for, who'd shown that you didn't need to be born into privilege to create something meaningful. She texted back, "At the mansion. Long story, very long story. Coming home soon. Everything is going to be okay. Better than okay. I love you." Before leaving, Camila walked through the mansion one more time. She stopped in each room, imagining its transformation. The ballroom would host performances and community events. The library would become a learning center. The dining room could be a gathering space for workshops and classes. The conservatory would offer music lessons. The gardens would provide peace and beauty to anyone who walked through them. This wasn't just about preserving a building. It was about creating access, giving people who'd been locked out of spaces like this a chance to experience beauty, culture, education, opportunity. It was radical in its way, taking a symbol of wealth and privilege and transforming it into a commons, proving that mansions didn't need to be monuments to individual accumulation. They could be gifts to entire communities. Harold and Lila had understood this, had chosen it deliberately, and they'd chosen her to make it real. As Camila locked the mansion door behind her and walked to her car, she felt the weight of Lila's letter in her purse and the storage unit key in her pocket. Tomorrow would bring crisis, Bernard filing the will, Vanessa's reaction, legal battles, media attention, 1,000 challenges she couldn't yet imagine. But tonight, she let herself feel something she'd rarely allowed: hope. Deep, fierce, unshakable hope that maybe, just maybe, she was exactly the person for this impossible job. "You are enough," Lila's words echoed in her mind. And for the first time in her life, Camila believed it might be true.